Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. So I'm Gordon Sanders. I'm Chief Forester for the West Fraser divisions in Alberta for the past year, and have been involved in industry in northern Alberta for quite a number of years. So it is my pleasure to introduce Ted this afternoon, who's the President and CEO of West Fraser. West Fraser has grown significantly since it started by the Ketchum brothers in BC, in the BC interior in the 50s. The company now, in addition to several operations in BC, has grown into Alberta and the US South, and West Fraser plays a strong role in the Alberta Forest industry economy and has operations supporting the communities of Sundre, Rocky Mountain House, Hinton, Edson, Whitecourt, Slave Lake, and here in Edmonton. Ted joined West Fraser in 1997. In his 15 years with the company, he has held positions of Vice President, Pulp and Paper Sales, Vice President, Pulp and Paper and Executive Vice President, and Chief Operating Officer. Ted assumed the role of President and Chief Operating Officer in 2012. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of British Columbia and is a chartered accountant. So I've come to know Ted as a strong, very capable, and tireless leader. He is very popular with West Fraser employees and can be seen regularly in boots or jeans, chatting with people in lunchrooms or shooting a game of pool with a young forester. He's not very good at it, but he's very approachable by all the staff. So despite being an accountant and having a long sales career and coming from Vancouver, Ted has a thorough understanding of our profession and our challenges in Alberta. I think deep down he would rather be a forester likely, and if he could do it all over again, he probably would be. So Ted, without further delay, welcome.
Thanks, Gord. Thanks. Thanks, Andreas. I'm not sure if I'm on. I guess I'm on. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I can't see you. I guess that's a good thing. So I guess that was a warm introduction. I am from Vancouver. I did go to UBC, and I didn't take forestry, but I did take one course in forestry. It was Forestry 300. And it was in my last year, and it was an elective, and the forestry faculty was a long way from everywhere else. And it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3:30. So I didn't make a lot of the Friday classes and not a lot of the Wednesday classes, and I didn't know I was going to go into forest products when I finished university. And I did start as a young CA, and as soon as I got it, I said, well, I want to get on and have a bit of a life. And I think there's a lesson here for some of the young folks here is getting education is really important. But you get a tremendous education once you get into the industry. And I joined the industry in 1985, and I joined it because I wanted to stay in British Columbia. But I stayed in it because I love the business. It's a tough business, but I love the business. But more importantly, this is an industry of great people. I mean, really fundamentally solid, down-to-earth people that work together. And we've been through lots of good times, but a lot of bad times together, and we've always done it with a smile on our face. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I am over 50. I want to give you a few warnings. I usually don't like using PowerPoint, but it does keep me under control, so I'm going to roam a little bit. So you got three choices here. Since I can't see you, if you get bored, you can look at your BlackBerry or iPhone or whatever. You can look at the screen, or you can maybe listen to me, or like my kids who are in university, you can probably do all three at the same time. The other warning is Andreas said he was nervous, and I think he's got a right to be nervous because he hasn't heard me speak before. And finally, and most importantly, I'm not in a very good mood today because our hockey team is now starting to reach the level of your teams in Alberta. And I don't want to talk anymore about that. So I will get into my presentation. And I'll probably forget to say a bunch of stuff, so please, if I'm missing some stuff that you want to talk about, I guess we're supposed to wait till the end. That's the formal way to do it. So you can do that. You can wait and ask questions. And one last complaint. Andreas made me wear a tie. And I thought to myself, making fun of an accountant, here I am. I'm not really an accountant, I'm really a pulp sales guy. But my point here is I've spent my whole career trying to avoid wearing a suit. And so I'm thinking foresters, rough, tough guys. And here you all wearing your suits and ties. So I'm not sure where this industry is going, but we better fix that as soon as we can. See, once again, I haven't started my presentation yet, so I haven't done everything I needed to do. I want to acknowledge a bunch of folks before I get going. And really, it talks about the future is bright in Alberta, but frankly, our past was pretty darn good as well. And it's because we've had tremendous support from the Alberta government. And I know there's lots of folks here from the government today, and I really do appreciate that. Yesterday, our industry, we got the opportunity to meet with the Premier. She spent 2 hours with the industry CEO group. Then we spent 2 hours with a number of MLAs who are huge supporters of our industry, and we can feel it every day. And even though I live in Vancouver, I spend a lot of my time in our mills in BC, Alberta, in the US, and I've got to tell you, I love coming to Alberta. I just love coming here because I love the enthusiasm and the support that we get from government, from our association, even from our other competitors in terms of dealing with critical issues in our industry. But, and again, I've got to tell you, it's a real pleasure for me to be able to not just speak to the young folks that are thinking about their careers, but to the others in the industry that I know hold this industry as dear as I do. So, I guess I better get started. Okay, so I'm not sure, can you guys hear me? I think I got a mic here. If you can't hear me, I'll move up to the mic. But to me, this is kind of an interesting slide. And you know, and I think this, and I think this is they're giving me too much high-tech stuff to use. So this, when I finished university, right here, and this period is even worse. The good side of it, though, is I started in the industry right here in '85. And for the young folks, you're in the same position as I was. You're in a position of opportunity. We've gone through 6 or 7 very tough years, really the toughest years in the history of our industry, really in the history of our industry. We saw housing starts drop down over to about 500,000 in the US from 2.2 million and from an average of 1.5 million. And you know, that had a huge impact on the industry. The industry had to cut back. It was hard to hire. I think we've seen the impact here at the university. Less folks came to the school, but we're in a period now of rebound. And I think after you hear what I talk about, I hope you believe as strongly as I do that the future is exciting, not just for the industry, but particularly for the industry in Alberta. But it sure had its impact. It had its impact on production in North America. North America went from producing 75 billion feet to 42 billion feet. From the peak in 2005 to 2009, when we hit the crisis, we went from 75 billion feet to 42 billion feet. The industry ran at 60%. And I want to show you this slide that shows you how well Alberta did. So here's British Columbia there. It's the blue line, and Alberta is the green line. And you can see that Alberta basically ran pretty close to full out. And that's because we've got a tremendous fiber base in Alberta, a very secure fiber base. And we've always had tremendous support from our government here. And British Columbia, we saw a significant decline, and I think we'll see a future decline as we deal with the mountain pine beetle. But the rest of the industry really suffered. That doesn't mean we didn't suffer here in Alberta. You know, yesterday we met with the Premier, and all the CEOs and owners of all the companies sat around the table and talked about how the last 6 or 7 years went. And you know, a number of them came very close to having to shut their doors. But you know, just about everybody made it through, and I think it really has to do with what I call the Alberta advantage. You know, strong fiber supply, support from government, and frankly, great employees. And as we look into the future, production's going to be down. And I don't have that slide with me, but you know, there's 2 sides to the business. There's a supply side and the demand side. And I think generally in the past we used to think that supply would continue to increase. But in our mind, we don't believe we're going to hit 75 billion feet of production. Last year we produced 55 billion feet. So 20 billion feet of production, that's a significant amount of production to recover. And the reason that we're not going to see that recovery is, one, in British Columbia, you can see BC is down by about 5 or 6 billion feet, and it's probably going to decline back to where it was in 2009. So we're going to lose 5, 6, 7 billion feet in BC. In the eastern Canada, we've seen a similar decline. We've seen some declines in other parts of North America, but ultimately, from our company's perspective, we think we're going to see production come back to maybe 65 billion feet, so another 10 billion feet of production. And frankly, 10 billion feet of production is the equivalent of about 400,000 housing starts, additional housing starts, plus all the other increases we see in repair and remodel. So really, we're at very low housing starts last year, and I'm going to just kind of show you the forecast for the future. And here's kind of the long term, but you can see we were very low, around 500,000 housing starts, and last year we were around 900. This year we think we're going to be about 1.1 million. We're still below the long-term average. But from our perspective, we don't even know if we have to get to that long-term average to have a really, really strong market. And for a couple of reasons. One, I talked about production. U.S. housing will come back, but we have another factor, and that's China. And when we hit the bottom in 2005, 2006, we really weren't shipping any lumber to China. Now we're shipping over 3 billion feet. It's probably even more than that, but we're trying to be conservative here. So we've now developed the equivalent of 300,000 housing starts or more to China. A lot of that's coming from British Columbia, but we're now seeing that we're also shipping from Alberta as well. And I've got to tell you, whether you ship lumber from Alberta to China or not, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you have the ability to find another market, and that's now adding to the demand. So our outlook for lumber is very, very positive, both based on improving demand, China, and restricted supply. Now, so that's really all I really want to do in terms of talking about the markets. I think bottom line here, supply is going to be restricted in North America, demand's going to slowly improve, and we're going to take advantage of growing markets in Asia. So, went a little too fast there. So really, here's a slide here called Vision 2020, and that's really comes from the, it's kind of an industry, the Canadian industry came up with these targets. And as you look at these targets in terms of, 3 areas, it's really products, environmental performance, and people. And, I've got to tell you, in my job at West Fraser, I focus on 2 things every single day. 1, strategy, where are we going? And 2, people. Are we developing our people and we're giving them the opportunities to achieve their potential so we can make that result happen as one company in the industry. But I think that's pretty exciting. And it's a real challenge, but our goal here is to generate an additional $20 billion of revenue, really from new markets, new products. And the industry in Canada is about a $55 billion industry. In Alberta, it's about $4 billion, if my numbers are right. In terms of environmental performance, I'll just show you a slide on West Fraser, and I know that's important to folks, but in terms of environmental performance, we want to significantly improve our environmental footprint. And I can tell you that our industry has done a better job than almost any industry in improving their environmental footprint over the last 10 or 15 years. And I'll show you some stats on our company. And I just think we're a proxy for the industry. I don't know if we're any better or any worse. I think we're a proxy. And fundamentally, we're going to have to recruit a lot of people. And I showed you that first slide, in 1982 when I graduated from university, it was hard to get a job. But by 85, it was starting to turn around. And now when you look at the demographics, and I think a lot of the folks in the industry see the same things that I see, which is we've got a lot of folks that are my age or slightly older or slightly younger. I think in our company, the average age of our salary employees and hourly employees is about the same. It's 49 or 50 years old. So we're getting old, and we're going to need to replace folks. And because we've had a hard time hiring people, during the recession, we've got a bit of a gulf here, and that's going to create great opportunities for young people, not just to get into our industry, but to move very quickly into leadership positions. I got to tell you, it feels very funny when I look at you folks because I can't see you. So I'm not sure if I'm getting much of a reaction. Maybe I'm not. So here's our job in the industry, and this is what we look at West Fraser, and we look at this every day. How do we get the most value out of the fiber? Because at the end of the day, fiber is a scarce and valuable resource. And so this is kind of the traditional model. So when you look at it, you see things like, lumber, panels, pulp, paper, and, some heat and electricity. And we're doing more in that area. And really the one area that I want to talk about on that slide is really heat and electricity. And I've got to tell you that we have a huge opportunity. We've taken advantage of it in British Columbia, and we're looking to see if we can develop that in Alberta in a bigger way. But it's really a matter of taking our hog fuel, taking our bark, our shavings, and producing electricity out of that. And I've got to tell you, we've done that in British Columbia at 3 of our mills, and it gives you a competitive advantage. And I just want to use it as an example. So 2 of our sawmills, we're building 10 megawatt turbines, and we're going to use hog fuel to basically run those turbines. Each of those turbines is going to generate $10 million a year or so of profit. That's going to give that mill a competitive advantage as it competes for fiber with its neighbors. But more importantly, gives it a competitive advantage in the next down market in terms of the ability to run. And I've got to tell you, it is a cyclical business. The outlook is very positive, but I'm a big believer that in a commodity business, you're going to have downs, you're going to have ups, but there will be another downturn. And the way we run our companies, we're already preparing for that next downturn whenever it happens. And part of it is getting the most value out of your fiber. But the part that I think is really exciting is where we're going. And so really it's a biofuels, biochemicals, biomaterials. And you know, when we look at that as a company, you know, we've done many things. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of our experiences. But I think it's just like anything that you develop, as you gain experience with sort of adding value to your business, getting more out of the wood, you actually, as a company, you start to think, and as an industry, you start to think about what else can we do? You develop that competency of, I wouldn't say taking risks, but exploring alternatives. And I think, again, what's happened here is, you know, industries worked very hard together. We've got in Alberta, we've got Alberta Innovates, we've got Forest Products Innovations that we're a member of course, in Canada. But we've also we're working very closely with government. So we're looking at projects, and we've received, our company, many others have received financial support in terms of developing new businesses, new uses for our fiber, new uses for our mill effluent, and to create value for the long term. So it's really been a partnership between government, industry, and the technical profession. And we really think there's a tremendous opportunity there. And our company, we're prepared to invest money, and I know many of our competitors are as well. So, you know, one thing I did want to talk about in terms of environmental performance. So this is really our purchase energy. So you can see this is West Fraser, and I don't think we're too different from the others. So where we're at, you know, from 2000 to 2012 or 2013, sorry, is you can see those numbers, significant reduction. So not only have we purchased less energy, we're using less. So remember 23 and 49%, remember those numbers. You look at the next slide, our GHG emissions are down even more so, 34 and 65%. And we're just starting up our bioenergy plants. So we're going to see even further reduction, not just as a company, but our competitors are doing the same thing. I'm not here to pat West Fraser too much on the back. I'll do that later in my presentation. But the point here is that from an environmental standpoint, the industry is far ahead of where a Kyoto protocol intended to be. And I think really, when I joined the industry, one of the other reasons I joined it is I looked at it and I thought, not only do I love Western Canada, but I looked at, you know, and most people that join the industry love the outdoors. But you look at the fact that it's renewable. You know, we recycle a lot of what we use, and we're really learning how to make the most out of the tree. And I think this, to me, is a statistic that we don't talk about much in the industry, but we should be very proud of it. Not just people that are in it, but people that are hoping to get in it and participate in it. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about West Fraser and why we like Alberta. And, you know, since 2010, even while we were still in the downturn, we started to generate some cash. And the first place we invested our money was in Alberta. And we've invested from 2010 to 2013 over $300 million. And we're probably going to invest another 100 or more this year in Alberta. We've basically, we're investing in new technology in our sawmills. We have 4 sawmills in Alberta. They've all been modernized, basically brand new sawmills. Our last one is going to be starting up in Edson probably early in April. And as you saw with that chart before, we're really focusing on energy reduction. we're doing some really unique projects. And again, we've had the support of not just the Canadian government, but also the support of the Alberta government. And so we're looking at things like energy generation. So one of the projects that we did, it's a $40 million, and these are big numbers. It doesn't matter how big your company is, $40 million is $40 million. And we received some support and funding, I think $5 million from the Alberta government and $10 million from the Canadian government that was actually administered by the Alberta government. The point here is what we're doing now, because we had the confidence in terms of making bioenergy out of chips, we said, what about mill effluent? What about our mill effluent? So if you look at that picture, investing in Alberta, that is about the size of a football field, and that's where our mill effluent is going to be, and we're going to be taking the biogas off that, putting it through a turbine, and producing energy. And if you get a chance to visit Slave Lake, Alberta, you should take a look at it. I'm very proud of what we've done there. And again, one of our competitors, Miller Western, they're doing the same thing, so we should be proud of them as well. But if you really think about it, we're taking mill effluent and we're creating green energy with it. That's pretty impressive. And as a company, we've probably invested $250 million in energy in the last 3 or 4 years, not just in BC, but in Alberta. And I'm challenging our folks to keep looking for more opportunities. And we're only doing it with a small group of people. We've got 3 or 4 folks in our main office in Quesnel, and we're working with our mill folks, but we're really challenging our folks, and it's primarily our young folks, to think about what do our mills of the future look like? How do we get the most value out of the fiber? How do we get the most value out of everything we produce? And how do we reclaim and reuse things like our mill effluent? And I think, from my perspective, I'm pretty excited, and I can tell you now we're in a position as a company where we're prepared to take on even more risk. We're not going to be careless about how we do this, but we're prepared to take on more challenges. So we're investing money in FP Innovations, we're the research arm. We're working on a number of projects, and I would hope over the next couple of years you will be hearing, not just from our company, but many others, how we're getting more into biofuels, biomaterials, bioproducts. I think we're going to take the advantage of the next 4 or 5 years of strong lumber markets and take the cash we generate, and reinvest it in the business. And I've got to tell you, we love investing in Alberta, and I keep challenging our folks every day to continue to look for new projects. Because at the end of the day here, we need to be competitive. And Alberta is a place where we've really had the opportunity. I think that chart that I showed you with the lumber operating rates, I think it kind of tells you how strong we feel about the future here. I'll keep going. And again, I said I'm trying to keep myself kind of between the ditches here, but I think I've really talked about that. We're really focusing on renewable energy and producing power. And we're not just looking at producing energy out of wood. We're also looking at each one of our sites and saying, how can we take more advantage out of that site? And while natural gas is not renewable like biomass is, it sure is a step ahead of coal. And I think if people read the Edmonton Journal today, I think it said 75% of Albertans would prefer to have other sources of energy. And I've got to, other than produced by coal, I've got to tell you, I think it's a big challenge, and it's not my job to comment on whether that's doable or not. Our job is to look for alternatives that make our company stronger, make our communities stronger. So we are, again, investing in producing energy out of natural gas, and it's a significant investment. But once again, it's going to make the future of that mill, and that mill is our joint venture mill with Alberta Newsprint up in Whitecourt. That's going to make that mill much more profitable in the long run. And again, it'll be sustainable. And you say to yourself, well, how important is that to a newsprint mill? I'm a forester. Well, this is an integrated industry, and if you went back to that pyramid I showed you, our job is to make the most use out of that fiber. And if we do a good job of it, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have a low-cost newsprint mill, a low-cost pulp mill, a low-cost MDF plant, and a low-cost panel plant, a low-cost sawmill. And that'll allow us not just to generate the cash to invest in other projects, but that'll allow, when newsprint markets are weak, we know that we'll be able to produce energy, and we know that we're also using that mill to create us leverage in finding logs and other things that allow us to, I guess, I hate to use this word, but the synergies between the businesses. So Well, you might see what I explain to our employees all the time is I say, we might not be doing a project at your mill, but it's making the company stronger. In your region, we might not be doing a project at your mill, but it's making that region stronger, and that's what we're focused on. Okay, I'll keep going here. Anytime you guys need a break, just let me know. So I'm going to talk a little bit about forest management. And again, I'm not an expert, and we do have folks that are experts here with us. Gord Sanders, who you met, Dave Lehane, who's our Vice President of Woodlands. So at the end of the day, he's the one that's responsible for our fiber supply. And at lunch I was saying, the most important thing you need to learn as a forester, when you join the industry, is learn how to answer a question without giving a real answer. And what I mean by that is every Monday we sit down with our senior group and we talk about the issues. And I'm going to get myself in trouble with Dave, but we'll say, Dave, like, what's our log supply like? He says, I can't really tell you. And well, what's it look like for the future? Well, I think we're going to be okay. But this week's going to be tough. And by the end of the week, we find solutions and we have enough logs to keep the mills running. But one of the things that the forester really has to do is never let yourself get pinned down by the rest of the management group, because at the end of the day, do you really know how fast these trees are going? How many logs we're going to get to the mill? But I'm turning a bad joke into an even worse joke. But the point is, you've got to learn how to make excuses. And now I'm in big trouble. So we'll just carry on here. So the bottom line here is. What I love about our foresters is their primary intent here is to do what's right for the forest for the long term. And I think most people that probably are sitting here, some of the students and the folks that are being in the business, that was probably their intent. They love the forest, and they said, well, how do I make a living? And what I get excited about it is the enthusiasm of our young foresters as they talk about how we are doing a better job at silviculture, how we're getting support not just from the company but from the government to really, think about the long term. And how many industries think about 200 years? How many industries think that way? That to me is a pretty meaningful statement. And as we think about investing in our mills, I don't really think about 200 years personally. I think of 25 years. Our company's almost 60 years old. And the point here is when we invest that capital, it's easy to me to roll the numbers off, 300 million, 400 million, 40 million. This is significant money, and it's not my money, it's our shareholders' money. And we've got to make the investments. And in our industry, it's based on knowing we have a sustainable forest to deal with. What I'm more excited about forestry, and it is really about people, and this is a big part of my job. I love going to the mills, and I love having the opportunity to sit down with our folks and talk to them about their future, and really their future in their community. And we now are at the point now where the Premier's telling us that we're in 50 communities, and I think that's really important. We may not be oil and gas. They're a $100 billion industry, we're a $4 billion industry. But as Dave Lehane says to me many times, we are basically the anchor tenant in most of our communities. We're the ones that are providing the community-based jobs where people can raise a family, come home every night, and know that they're part of something solid. We have, about the numbers, I'm never sure if I got the right numbers, but let's call it 13, 15, 18,000 direct jobs. If you look at the spin-off of that, there's probably 40, 50,000 jobs that are dependent directly or indirectly on our industry. And if you look at that for families, that's probably 100,000 or 150,000 people in Alberta in communities that are dependent on our industry. So we have a huge responsibility. And it's funny, when I think about my job, I feel like a bit of a politician sometimes because, I think about our constituents, and it's our 7,300 employees all around the company. And then the spin-off jobs that are based on that in the family. So I guess for our company, it's probably somewhere in the order of, 40,000 people that are dependent on us doing a good job. And so when you think about making that commitment, that financial commitment, that's what we can do. And then what we look for from our foresters, from our relationships with government, from our relationships with First Nations, with environmental groups, with all our stakeholders, we need to ensure that we've got a secure fiber supply. That's what's really important to us. And then we can guarantee those jobs and build those jobs for the future. I think the other thing about these jobs is, they're changing. I talk about technology, bioproducts, bioenergy, new scanning systems in sawmills. I've got to tell you, it's really, I don't know how many of the young folks here have been into a sawmill. I think it's pretty exciting, and I'm not a sawmiller. You know, I've got a daughter who just finished university, and she was traveling through British Columbia last summer. And I said to her, and she's always bored listening, just like you guys are. She's always bored listening to me talk about the industry. And I said, you know, I said to her, you know, why don't you go see a sawmill? So she was traveling with 3 kids that she was working with. And so they had half a day. They went to one of our sawmills. She phones me up right after. She says, Dad, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Those logs are going at, what, 700 feet a minute? And all the technology. And so we're not an old industry. We're a new modern industry with new modern jobs and modern ways of working together. You know, yeah, there's lots of unions in our industry. We're union, we're non-union. I really don't care. It's all about people. And I've got to tell you, we are working differently with our employees, and so are many of our competitors, because we need different skills, we need different ways of looking at things. And I've got to tell you, the future, I believe, is really bright, not just because we're excited about where the markets are going, but we're excited about our ability to reinvest in our industry and really look ways of making technology drive our future. So I'm going to do a little West Fraser ad here, because Dave and Gord said the reason I'm here is to help recruit people, because we've got a lot of job openings. I think we're going to be looking for a new CEO tomorrow, maybe, and you don't need to know much to do this job, and I think the people in the industry that know me would agree. So let me tell you about West Fraser. And I think any company that comes up here would be saying the same thing. You know, before I brag about West Fraser, we were sitting around the table last night with the Premier, and we were all there, and I'll back up a step here. The AFP, the Alberta Forest Products Association, I'm really proud of that association. We're a member of it, and most of the folks in the industry are members. And about a year, 6 months ago, we decided that we were going to have a CEO board. I don't know what that means when you're sitting here in university. But what it means is that we have CEOs and owners sitting at the table, working together to say, how can we impact the future for our communities, our employees, and for all folks in Alberta in a positive way. We're very united on a number of fronts. So we put this group together, and we decided, okay, we're going to communicate that to government. So we had our meeting yesterday. So yeah, I work for West Fraser. We're a large company, but we're not. We're a company full of mills and communities. That's who we are. And we're a third-generation company. And many of the folks that I sat around with, you know, from different companies like Vanderwell, Boucher Brothers, Miller Western, many of these companies, they've been in Alberta for a long time. And, you know, one of the messages that they all gave is they're family-based, valued companies. And that's what this industry is all about in Alberta. And that allows you to forget about the politics, forget about the formalities. It allows you to come and work for people that really truly become your friends. You know, I joined West Fraser, it wasn't 15 years ago, it was almost 17 years ago. But I probably only done 15 years worth of work. But, you know, the point I want to make is the people I work with, they're my friends. And I didn't really expect that when I joined this company. It's this industry, you know. When I graduated from university, my dad said, you know, keep your work friends and your personal friends separate. I tried to do that. It's really hard to do that in this industry because there's so many great people. And not only do I have good friends in West Fraser, I've made good friends outside of West Fraser. And I got to tell you, when I retire, that's what I'm going to think about, is the friendships that I've been able to develop because of that family, team-oriented approach that everybody has. So I bragged about the industry. I've told you how I feel about Alberta. I've told you how I feel about where I think the industry is going. Hopefully I've told you a little bit about where I think we're going with technology and new products. And I'm not the expert on that again, but I'm really excited about that. And I really like the fact that it's not a West Fraser thing or an industry thing. It's industry working together with universities, with government, with the strong research organizations. It doesn't happen, you know, in a silo. It happens by us working together. But here I'm going to do the West Fraser sales pitch. So as you think about your future, even some of you folks that have jobs, we're always recruiting. I guess this is the West Fraser pitch. So am I allowed to do this, Andreas? Absolutely. Okay. I got the permission, so here we go. So this is a key part of the presentation. The rest of it, forget about it. So here we are. So West Fraser. I don't need to look at this. West Fraser was started by three brothers in Quesnel in 1955. Pete, Bill, and Sam Ketchum. They came up from Seattle with 2 nickels to rub together, and they bought a little planer mill. And they built that into the largest lumber company in the world with the same values. And I became the CEO last year, but I'm not really the CEO. I'm just the guy that works for Hank. And Hank Ketchum is the son of one of the founders. And I joined the company because of the quality of the family, and the family's still very much engaged. And so he's tasked us, Gord, Dave, myself, all the 7,300 of us, to run this company like it was run when there was 12 people. And those are the values we have. And so as we've grown as a company, we expanded in Alberta in 1989. We're the largest forest products producer in Alberta. I think we're about 35% of the revenue in Alberta. We continue to be excited about what we do here, but we're very focused on people. And I've got to tell you, we've always been pretty low profile. I live in Vancouver, and people will say, "Who do you work for?" And I say, "I work for West Fraser." And they say, "Who's that?" I said, "Oh, have you heard of another company?" And they said, "Yeah." Well, I said, we're in the same business. And I kind of like that low profile, but as we're trying to, and that's one of the issues with this industry, we all like the low profile. We've got to brag about what we're doing more as companies in the industry to help recruit folks, to make sure that people in the environmental community actually understand that we are doing good things. I mean, I joined the industry because I thought we were doing good things, and we're doing better things today than we did 30 years ago. But in any event, we were given an award a couple of years ago, top 100 companies to work for in Canada. And I thought that's kind of interesting for a forest products company. And I thought, well, maybe it's because we have a Starbucks in our little office in Vancouver, or I really didn't know what it was. But I think it really comes down to how we deal with people. And I keep saying our competitors are probably no different. I don't know if they are, if they're not, but they're all, people are pretty much similar in this industry. And last year we were voted one of the top 10 companies to work for in Canada. And it's not because we've got fancy ways of doing things, or all kinds of perks that we give our employees. It's because we give our employees the opportunity to achieve their potential. And it doesn't matter where you start in the company. You can start in West Fraser and end up with my job from any place in the company if you really have the teamwork, the drive, and make sure you come to work every day and try and have some fun. And I tell you, I have fun every day at work. I just love what I do. And Gord was kind of joking, but the most fun I have is when I go to the mills and joke around with the folks and see, and the most satisfaction I get is seeing young people and people my age achieving their potential. And that's what West Fraser is all about, which is about achieving our potential as a team and having fun doing it. So we got a few mills. We got 27 sawmills. So we're North America and the world's largest lumber producer. We're the largest plywood producer, and we're a large pulp producer. We like being integrated. I'm not very good at stuff like this. Although they did let me run part of a mill in Augusta, Georgia last week. And I'm not one to brag, or maybe I am, but we set a production record at Augusta, Georgia last week. And it was pretty exciting, but I've got to tell you, we're in the U.S. South as well. And again, this makes our company stronger because we're in 3 different regions: BC, Alberta, U.S. South. So right now, BC is being challenged by mountain pine beetle. So that's okay because we're strong in Alberta, we're strong in the U.S. South. And there's going to be, we're in this business for 100 years. And there's going to be issues in Alberta, there's going to be issues in the U.S. South. And by being diversified, it makes the whole company stronger. Part of the speech I tried to give earlier and did a poor job on. But we're really excited to grow in Alberta. We're really excited to grow in the U.S. South. And we're learning things down there that we're applying up here, and we're learning things up here that we're applying down there. One of the things that we learned down there is you need to have the right mill around the sustainable fiber supply. And what we've learned from British Columbia is through this whole mountain pine beetle exercise is that large mills may not be what serve us well in a declining timber basket. What serves us well is to have a really secure fiber supply and then build our mills around that, and then try and extract as much value as we can out of that log and out of that location. which I think I talked about earlier. I'm just about done here, guys, so that's probably the good news. So I'm going to show you where we are in Alberta. Gord actually, I think, explained most of it, but I'll just show you a little bit about it. And again, one of the reasons why we've grown in Alberta is we have a high degree of confidence. One of the reasons we've invested so much money in Alberta, and we continue to invest money, is the confidence we have in really three things: fiber supply, our relationship with government, which is really important because it's not our wood, and government is here to represent all the public, not our interests, all the public. And we need to have a very close and open relationship and deal with hard issues together. And at the end of the day, the thing I like about West Fraser is we try and do the right thing. And I think that the relationships we've had in Alberta have really demonstrated that everybody is focused on doing the right thing here. And I'm not just saying it to say it, I really feel it. And I guess fundamentally, there's a work ethic in Alberta that I think is unique in all our company. I don't mind saying that. We've got a good work ethic in British Columbia. We're challenged in the U.S. South. We're working on it. But in Alberta, when somebody says they're going to do something, it gets done. And we don't go through a huge song and dance. And I got to tell you, when you're trying to run a business and trying to make decisions where you're going to invest capital, you want certainty and you want the right answer. It doesn't have to be quick, but you want people to be decisive, and I think that's what we have in Alberta with government and with our employees. So you can see, we're throughout Alberta. I don't need to bore you with all the details, but we're excited to be here. Okay, I think this is the last slide. So who are we? And I probably covered it all. I think you've seen that all. That point, strong balance sheet, what does that mean to a forester? Well, it's what it means is that's our financial position. And why I'm the most excited is the last downturn. Our company came out of the downturn when we only had 500,000 housing starts, financially stronger than it went in. I think that was a bit unique to the industry. And that's because of the quality of our people and the focus of our owners, the people that founded this company, the Ketchum family, to reinvest, and also get the most out of people and create an atmosphere. And I've got to tell you, it was tough times. And some of our hair went a little grayer than it should have. But I've got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. It was hard, but it was fun. We worked together, and we got through it. And that's why I'm excited about the future of our company. I don't know where lumber markets are going to go, but I know what we have control and influence on. People in this room, people in our company. If we do our job, we're going to be just fine. So I think that's about all I have to say. And somebody told me to put this last slide up. This is, people my age probably wouldn't get it, but the folks at school, this is all the technology. If you want to learn more about West Fraser, that's where you find us. And I'm done. Thanks. I think they're clapping because I'm done.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to leave?
No, stay here. We'll have a few questions and question and answer session. And I should also mention, because you talk to the right audience, and
I can't even see them.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of an irritation, but they can see you very well. So, anyways, we've looked on our 7th floor. There are supposed to be 3 job advertisements for recent graduates, forestry graduates. So if you want to, we couldn't find them actually, but they are there. So you talk to the right people there. I'm certain there will be interest. Okay, so with this, let's open this up for question and answer. And I see, is it John? Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. And Ted, thank you for the very positive message that you're sending about the sector. And you really emphasized the importance of looking ahead and trying to anticipate what the future might be like. And you also emphasized, obviously, the critical importance of people. Now, as it happens in our faculty, we'll be celebrating our centennial next year. So we're certainly looking to the future as well, in terms of the kinds of graduates we should be producing, if I could use that word, and also in terms of the research that we should be doing. So I'd be very interested in your perspective in terms of what your expectations are of the graduates from our university, and also the types of research that you would see us doing in the future?
Well, I think I can do a pretty good job on the first one and probably a lousy job on the second one. So I'll try and answer the first one. I don't know, Dave, if you're prepared to answer the second one around the type of research around the forestry side, if you'd like. But I think the first one is around people. It's pretty simple. We are looking for people that want to come and work for our company and have drive, initiative, and want to learn new things. I think university is a great place to learn. And I learned a lot at university, and as I said at lunch today, I learned a lot more since I started to work. In our company, I mean, that's pretty obvious. I'm a pulp salesman and I'm running a lumber company. So I think I'm and I'm not joking there, I'm an example of someone that, you can do just about anything in our company and in our industry. So I think having the good technical foundation that you get with a degree here is going to be fantastic. And frankly, that's all we need. That and enthusiasm. You're going to have a job, you're going to have a great career. So I think that part is pretty simple. In terms of research, Dave, would you mind helping me out on that one?
Well, Ted, I'm not sure, but maybe I can help a little bit. Anyways, when you, well, that's okay. We do know how to grow trees, and we've had lots of research over the years on spending more and more time now, I think, on tree improvement programs.
I've got to tell you, it's very hard to talk to people. I should have stood over here.
It's something that the audience does not know, so it's not.
Yeah.
It does take some.
Is that what you wanted? Was that okay?
Yeah, that's super. That's great.
I was kind of rambling a bit.
On public access, around reclamation, on legacy disturbance, around stream crossings, around water, around things like mensuration and remote sensing, and how do we apply technology better in the forest. I think we're just starting to touch on some really neat product on the LiDAR, and certainly there really is a shortage of people coming out of universities that have the knowledge to build and manage computer models that use remote sensing information to give us better working tools in the forest. So, Rick Waters here, he's our chief biologist and lives and breathes research. So if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, he's here and can do a lot better job than Ted or I when you're talking about applied research.
I didn't see Rick here. Hi, Rick, thanks for coming. I think we've also got Shane Sadoway from our Blue Ridge mill, so thanks guys for coming out and listening to me babble.
But we have at least one more question,
Yep,
Lee.
thanks. Ted, thanks. That was really a heartening and optimistic, upbeat presentation. It's quite ironic, but my family in the South actually sells wood to your Joyce Mill. And it's of great frustration to me that when I was in high school some 40 years ago, we were happy to get $300 per 1,000 board feet, and we're still selling timber for $300,000 per board feet. And everyone talks about the availability of wood, the housing starts, the China lift. That's a real heartening story. But can you comment about prices in the future of what prices might respond to some of this?
Lumber prices.
Yeah, lumber prices. Why is it so flatlined?
I didn't say you have to be smart to be in this industry.
But you're pretty good at dodging questions if you have to.
No. I'm happy to try that one. But at the end of the day here, we focus on, and I'll try and answer it, but we really focus on what we have control and influence on, and that's our costs. That's the value we're adding, and that's why we're investing a lot of money in our mills. So we can't predict where prices went. In fact, we sold lumber in 2009 at $127 a thousand. So we didn't make any money on that. But I think I can't predict where things are going, but I think we're optimistic about the future. But again, I really don't know where it's going. But at the end of the day, commodity prices on the long run, they don't go up. They tend to be flat or go down. So that's how we plan our business. And if we see $500, today we're around $370 for lumber. If we see $500 lumber prices, That'll be a good thing, but that might also create some substitution of other products like steel and concrete. So at the end of the day here, the market will, I hate to be boring about it, but the market will tell us what we're going to get for our product because it's a global commodity. And we focus on what we have control over. It probably doesn't answer your question.
There may not be.
And the most important thing is having low log costs, so we'll be talking to you after the session. Dave? Thanks for coming. Anybody else selling us anything? No? Do any of these students have any questions about, I mean, here's an opportunity to talk about careers in the industry, and I realize I probably didn't cover everything, but we really have great opportunities in this industry for young people because of the things I hope that I talked about. And if you don't want to ask here, please ask me when we get together later tonight. I'm very approachable. Maybe I'll be allowed to take my tie off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so very approachable and looking forward to having some fun with you. That's it? No more questions? Good, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Ted. That was great. Very much appreciated. We are going to meet again at the faculty club for all those who are invited for the banquet. And I should make a note that, so there's mixers at I think about 5 o'clock, and then we'll have dinner at 6 o'clock. So you can actually head over there after the lecture right away. Our next Phil's lecture will be on November 6th. If you want to put that in your calendar, we have Christian Messé here from Quebec. He's the NSERC Industrial Chair for Control of Forest Tree Growth. So we're trying to alternate the business side and the academic side, but keep it applied and interesting for a forestry industry audience. So I'm thinking this one will really be a very interesting talk as well. So thank you very much. Let's thank our speaker for the last time. And